A timeless backdrop for the Heartland's ever-evolving drama is the familiar rocky silhouette against the pale morning sky. Amy usually feels at ease when she sees the landscape painted in strokes of amber, crimson, and gold by autumn. However, on this particular day, the vibrant hues seem almost mocking too bright for the gloomy uncertainty that is clouding her heart. Years. The name T. Borden has become synonymous with a tragic past that was tragically cut short many years ago. She leads Spartan along the well-worn path, his constant presence serving as a familiar anchor in her memory's turbulent currents. She recalls the apprehension, denial, and suffocating grief that threatened to suffocate her. Then came the slow, laborious process of rebuilding for Lindy, for herself, and for Heartland's legacy of love and healing. She found strength in her family's unwavering support, Jack's quiet wisdom, Lou's fierce pragmatism, Lisa's gentle direction, and even Tim's rough, unspoken understanding. Nathan's calm demeanor was a balm and provided a different kind of connection. A tentative step toward an unimaginable future. However, Ty's ghost never truly vanished. In the quiet moments, when the ache of his absence felt as raw as the day she lost him, he lingered in their daughter's laughter and the melody of a song that had been forgotten. Jack watches her with a worried expression on his weathered face from the porch. He recalls Ty's arrival as a troubled young man who found love and purpose in this very sky. He cried out for him like a son. Something deep within him twists when he sees Amy now caught between the life she worked so hard to build and the impossible figure at the gate. Lou orchestrates the morning chaos in the bustling farmhouse kitchen, with her laptop open and phone pressed to her ear. However, she loses focus. Her carefully planned world has been thrown into disarray by the whispered, uncertain, and shockingly confirmed news. With his arms crossed, Tim leans against the doorway with his usual cynicism mixed with a hint of vulnerability that he rarely displays. Georgie is frozen near the window as she recalls Ty teaching her to jump with painful clarity. She remembers his easy smile and his unwavering belief in her. And while Lindy draws horses in the dust near the barn, she hums a tune, oblivious to the quake in her family, and the fact that the father she only knows from old pictures and sweet stories is about to enter her life. His arrival is announced by the gravel's crunch, not a ghost or a memory, but flesh and blood. Ty. He clearly reflects the effects of time and hardship, giving the impression of being older. Underneath layers of weariness and a profound sadness etched into his very soul, the boyish charm is still present. He stops at the edge of the drive and looks over the ranch house, barn, and rolling hills before finally focusing on Amy. Time shatters. Sensing the seismic shift in the air, Spartan gently whinnies and nudges Amy's shoulder. Her throat is catching her breath as she turns. He is it. The gap between them is all that remains of the world, a chasm filled with unanswered questions, years of silence, and her own heart's deafening beat. A physical blow of disbelief is followed by a flood of opposing feelings, anger, confusion, betrayal, and beneath it all, a perilous glimmer of the love she thought she had safely hidden. How? Why? The sudden, profound silence echoes the queries. He hesitantly advances, his eyes pleading for something that she is unsure she can provide. This is more than just a return. It is an earthquake, shaking everything she thought she knew and posing a threat to the fragile peace she worked so hard to achieve. His absence is shrouded in mystery. Was it an option? A requirement? What threat prevented him from coming near, forcing him to let them believe the worst? When it comes, the explanation must be more than just words. It must justify the daughter growing up without her father, the years of heartbreak, the nights spent alone. The beginning of a brand new, terrifyingly uncertain chapter for Heartland makes the air vibrate with its weight. There are a lot of unspoken words, and the ghosts of shared memories filling the seconds, which seem to go on forever. Amy is still motionless, caught between the future she had tentatively begun to build and the past that has suddenly become present. Ty takes another step, bringing the distance between them down to a few feet. He looks at her face with a raw, intense gaze, looking for any evidence of their past connection. He appears haunted, and she cannot even begin to comprehend the extent of his suffering in his eyes. Where is he now? What horrors did he go through that left such scars on his face and obscured his vision? Jack moves first, his heavy boots on the porch steps made of wood. When he says Ty's name, his voice is rough and thick with shock and a lifetime of suppressed grief. Ty gives him his due. Before turning back to Amy forever, he makes a fleeting connection to the man who served as his anchor and mentor with a slight nod. Tim and Lou slow down as they approach, their faces displaying a complex mix of shock, apprehension, and a cautious, almost fearful hope. Overwhelmed by the reappearance of the person who'd been so important to Georgie as a child, tears silently trace their tracks down her cheeks as she remains rooted close to the house. But the scene is held back by Amy's reaction, or lack thereof. Brick by painful brick, the carefully constructed walls surrounding her heart are falling apart. This man is Ty, but he is not. The phantom limb aches not only because of the loss, but also because the presence of him is so perplexing. Underneath the surface, anger simmers, anger for the deception, for the years taken from them, for the suffering caused, regardless of the reason. He could not allow them to grieve. Should Lindy be allowed to grow up thinking her father is gone? His raspy, unfamiliar voice finally speaks. Amy. All that's left unsaid is the weight of her name alone. It is not an explanation, but rather a plea that hangs in the air. As he takes in the scene, he notices Nathan leaving the barn and looks worried. Even from a distance, the tension is palpable. Before returning to Amy, Ty's gaze flickers toward him, allowing for a brief exchange of understanding or perhaps rivalry. Despite living a life without him, the presence of another man in her life serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of his absence. Lindy moves closer because of the unnatural stillness. Her bright, curious eyes take in the stranger, her mother's tears, and the frozen family tableau. Why are you crying, Mommy? What man is he? The delicate silence is broken by her innocent voice. Ty flinches as though hit. If the story is true, he completely turns to face his daughter, whose face he has only seen in pictures that were smuggled to him during his time hiding. A living testimony to the love they once shared is the undeniable similarity between themselves and Amy. He is ruined by the sight. His carefully maintained composure finally breaks as he sinks to his knees, oblivious to the gravel and dust. Tears, obscuring his vision. He chokes on Lindy, the name being emotional. In his eyes, he looks back at Amy with desperation. Amy, I had no desire to leave. I needed to. There were individuals, I had to ensure your safety. The two of you. It suggests a dangerous entanglement because it is incomplete and fragmented. A sacrifice made to protect them from a danger they were unaware of. Witness protection, a covert operation, or a past error with devastating repercussions may have been the cause. Regardless of the truth, it wasn't just abandonment. They were all left with scars as a result of the desperate decision they made. The reunion is not a touching scene from a movie. Rather, it marks the beginning of a difficult investigation into the past, revealing long-buried secrets and forcing everyone to confront the fragile nature of trust, forgiveness, and the difficult path to healing. Heartland is blanketed in the immediate aftermath of Ty's revelation, like a thick fog. A torrent of questions and the startling reality of his presence replace the initial shock. Jack takes a step forward and puts a hand on Ty's shoulder, which is both a grounding and a questioning gesture. Son, you must tell us everything, I said. He speaks with determination, but he also sounds tired because he has already buried Ty once. Lou is torn between relief and practicality as she charges forward. Ty, how are you doing? What have you been doing? We require specifics. Already trying to control the uncontrollable repercussions of his return, her mind races. Tim keeps looking skeptical, arms crossed and intent. Protect them from what? Amy and Lindy went through hell, Borden, so this story better be good. He says harsh things because he is so protective of his daughter and granddaughter. Finally, Georgie comes up, her face vulnerable. "Ty, are you really you?" He gives her a fleeting, aching smile as he looks up at her. "This is me, Georgie." While her own thoughts race, Amy instinctively shields her daughter by bringing Lindy closer, safe. What kind of threat could possibly be used to justify faking his own death? Letting them flounder in a sea of sorrow? Ty's hints at an explanation, protection, or danger feel both terrifyingly real and impossible to pin down. Did he have to run away? Was there something he discovered that put them all in danger? The story of a secret mission or witness protection seems plausible, but its implications are absolutely devastating. It indicates that lies served as the foundation for their lives. Amy stands in the yard, the early morning sun casting long beams of gold across the ranch, but the light does little to warm the chill that has settled deep in her chest. She gazes at Nathan, who lingers a few feet away, his hands shoved awkwardly into his coat pockets, shoulders tense. He doesn't speak. His eyes, wide and dark, are filled with a storm of emotions: shock, hurt, uncertainty. He's here, physically present, but in every other way, he seems distant, disconnected, as if unsure of his place in a story that has suddenly rewritten itself. Amy's eyes shift toward Ty. Just the sight of him is a blow to her senses. The man she thought was gone forever. The man she grieved, cried for, yelled at in the empty dark, and slowly, painstakingly learned to live without. Now here he is, real, breathing, standing on the soil of the home they once shared, disrupting everything she thought she had settled. Her breath catches in her throat, the weight of the moment nearly too much to bear. The space between them is thick with unspoken words, with years of pain and longing and betrayal that neither of them quite knows how to articulate. Ty looks as if he's been through hell. He is thinner, paler, marked by a weariness that speaks of more than just time away. It speaks of hiding, running, surviving, but his eyes still hold that same spark, the one Amy remembers so vividly from quiet evenings in the barn, from holding their daughter for the first time together, from whispered promises beneath star-filled skies. "It's complicated," Ty begins, his voice rough, barely above a whisper. "It started long before the accident, before the clot. There were people from my past. People I thought I'd left behind for good. But they found me." He pauses, his jaw tightening, as if forcing himself to continue. The silence stretches uncomfortably before he speaks again. "They made threats. Serious ones. Against you. Against Lindy." Amy flinches at the mention of their daughter's name. Ty notices but continues. "The DVT, it was real. The pain, the hospital, all of it. But someone saw an opportunity. They convinced me that disappearing was the only way to keep you safe. That if I stayed, if I tried to come back, you'd both be targets." He glances down, his voice thick with regret. "So I left. I disappeared. I've been living off the grid ever since. Watching when I could. Waiting for the threat to pass. I didn't know when, if it ever would." Amy doesn't respond. Her heart is racing, each beat pounding with a mix of anger, grief, and an impossible flicker of hope. The explanation feels hollow, inadequate. How could he leave her to pick up the shattered pieces of their life alone? And yet, here he is, standing before her. Lindy tugs gently on Amy's hand, her small voice breaking through the fog of emotion. "Is he my daddy?" Amy's gaze falls to her daughter. Lindy's wide, searching eyes are filled with confusion, but also something else: curiosity. Longing, a need to belong, to understand. Amy's throat tightens, and she looks back up at Ty, the man who shares her daughter's eyes, her determination, her stubbornness. "Yes, sweetie," Amy says, barely managing the words. "He is." The air seems to still for a moment, the weight of that confirmation rippling through the quiet morning like a stone dropped into still water. It's a simple answer, but monumental in its impact. A line crossed. A truth accepted. The hours that follow are disjointed, surreal. The family gathers in the house, the same walls that once echoed with laughter, and later, with grief. Ty sits at the kitchen table, familiar yet foreign, his fingers tracing the grain of the worn wood like he's trying to ground himself in a life that moved on without him. Jack, Lisa, Lou, and Tim surround him, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, anger, suspicion, and, in some cases, guarded hope. Ty recounts fragments of his journey, the fake names, the close calls, the near misses that kept him on the move and away from home. He omits the darkest moments, but the pain in his voice makes their existence clear. Amy watches from the doorway. She doesn't sit. She can't. The emotional distance between her and Ty feels insurmountable, the gap too wide to bridge with words alone. Her mind is flooded with memories, Lindy asking why her daddy went to heaven, the nights spent crying into a pillow, the days she forced herself to smile for her daughter's sake. How could he leave her in that grief? How could he trust strangers over the people who loved him most? Later, she steps outside, unable to bear the oppressive weight of the house. The wind is cool, brushing her skin like a whisper of something long forgotten. She leans against the fence, her eyes on the distant mountains, seeking answers in the familiar skyline. Nathan approaches quietly. He doesn't speak right away, just stands beside her, solid and present. A comfort, and yet a reminder of how much everything has changed. "It's a lot to take in," he says at last. Amy nods, eyes still fixed on the horizon. The words aren't enough. Nothing is. She had started to find peace with Nathan, a kind, steady man who never tried to replace Ty, only to support her. But now, everything is uncertain. Her feelings haven't vanished with Ty's return. If anything, they've deepened the ache inside her. Later, she finds Ty near the barn, his hand resting on Spartan's mane. The old horse nickers softly, recognizing the touch. Ty turns as Amy approaches. His face lights up with something like hope, but it quickly dims with apprehension. "Amy," he says, voice thick with emotion. "I know sorry isn't enough. Nothing will ever be enough to make up for what I did. For leaving. For the pain I caused. But I need you to believe me when I say I never stopped thinking about you. About Lindy. Every second I was gone, it was torture." Amy's eyes fill with tears, but she keeps them at bay. "Why didn't you try harder to come back sooner?" she asks, voice barely steady. "Why didn't you trust us?" "Trust Jack? We could have protected each other." He looks down, ashamed. "I was scared," he admits. "They made me believe any contact would put you in danger. Maybe I should have questioned more. Maybe I was a coward." The silence that follows is not empty. It's full of everything they haven't said. It's not forgiveness, but it's a beginning. Lindy appears again, small and hesitant, and walks toward Ty. He crouches to meet her, their eyes locking. In that moment, something changes in Amy. Watching her daughter see her father really see him for the first time, she feels a shift. Not a resolution, but a loosening of the tight knot that's been strangling her heart. The road ahead is long, complicated. There are no guarantees. But as the sun begins to dip behind the hills, casting warm light over the ranch, a fragile seed of something new begins to grow. It's not a perfect reunion. It's not even a happy one. But it's real. And for the first time in a long while, that feels like enough. Subscribe to our Nextdoor channel for more updates and interesting content. Here are 2 alternatives if you wanted to sound even more persuasive or promotional. Subscribe to our Nextdoor channel today so you don't miss out on any more exciting updates. Follow us on Nextdoor for more. Says, stay in the loop with the latest news and stories.